up, everyone? Welcome into the first episode of Fighting Words. I'm your host, Tony Ansem. As always, joined by my co-host, Fernando, the Boxing Brain Valdez. What's up, Fernando?
Not much. What's up with you, Tony?
Not bad, just enjoying this Vegas weather. As you can see behind me, I'm in downtown Las Vegas, just a few miles from the T-Mobile Center. Fernando, my co-host, is reporting down in Florida. How's the weather down in Florida, Fernando?
It's been good, man. It's hot, muggy. Humidity's what it is in Florida. It's not as dry as
the usual Florida
nice
weather, pretty much.
We got a nice view today.
Yeah, definitely. So we want to welcome everyone into the channel. Like I said, this is our first episode where we'll be discussing everything combat sports related. Boxing, MMA. We'll have betting picks, our predictions, a little bit of history, news, current events, and just life aspect of the sport. So we hope you all enjoy, and let's get right into it, Fernando.
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's dive in the water, right?
So what are your thoughts on the Canelo fight?
And I think that's going to be one heck of a fight. I mean, Charlo, I've been watching some of the Charlo's obviously been doing the rounds on social media, and he looks like he's taking this seriously. It's a big step up for him. He's had a 2-year layoff, like you said, you alluded to before, and it's going to be a tough fight, man. But I think
it is.
Canelo's going to outwork him in the end. It might be like a late stoppage or something. That's what I kind of see, or maybe a decision win for Canelo. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, the betting lines are showing it now. Canelo, last time I looked, was a minus 400. Charlo at plus 300, I believe. So a significant underdog. I think that 2 years of inactivity is definitely going to play a factor. Ring rust, as we all know, is detrimental to boxers. They aren't the fighters that they once were a couple years ago. And, I think that's going to play a significant factor in this fight. This fight is actually it's really reminiscent, if you think about it, if you want to go back in a little bit of boxing history, to the Chavez-Taylor fight. Chavez-Meldrick Taylor won. You remember that one?
I do. I remember that one pretty well. They're both undefeated fighters coming in. And, again, the Mexican-American rivalry. And there's a few of them with Chavez as well. Definitely. We got Chavez and Sweepy, too, kind of reminiscent of that. I mean, they're a little smaller guys. But Chavez is kind of like Canelo in the sense that they both move forward, cut the ring, try to, fight. Maybe not as much as inside as Chavez, but Canelo likes to be close.
Switching over a little bit, I don't know if you saw the recent UFC news. Israel Adesanya was dethroned by Sean Strickland for the middleweight title.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Strickland's kind of a crazy character, though. I've been watching some of the interviews, and you sent me that picture with the AK. He's got a picture. He's got a picture showering with an AK-47. I mean, that's a UFC heavyweight middleweight champion, folks. There he is. Yeah, and also, I also sent you that video of that interview he had. He's quite a character, but I think he's going to command a payday at some point. That fight, if he has one with Covington, that's going to be that's the one that they're floating. That's the one I hear that they're floating at the end of the year, the Colby Covington versus Sean Strickland. I mean, listen, he was a major underdog. I think he came out a little unorthodox, not like people expected. It's really unorthodox to see in the UFC somebody going in there with that kind of style, boxing style, and just taking it to Adesanya the way he did. I don't think he was expecting that, and I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the UFC coming. Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury, I hear it's inked. That's going to be a good fight too. Ngannou, I don't know much about him as far as his boxing, but he's a tough cookie, man. And Tyson Fury, you don't know what Tyson's going to show up. Tyson, he could be partying, snorting it up, and if that guy shows up, he's beatable, by anybody. Anybody can land a lucky punch.
That is true. Some big fights are going to take place, wrapping up the year of 2023. I wanted to speak on that a little bit, and then just the big news coming out of Showtime. They look like they're closing down their boxing promotion after a really decent run.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame. I mean, they had a lot of good fights, a lot of good fighters there. They had Tyson, and it's kind of a shame. I don't know what that's going to mean for the sport. I heard Dana White's wanting to get into boxing. I don't know. I'm kind of have mixed feelings. I think I don't know if he'll get the same He'll have to like pay more money. I don't know. It'll kind of mess up the UFC side if the boxing guys are making millions.
Dana White's great. Dana White's response to it was like, good. It's about time or whatever. They got rid of that BS promotion. It's always good for a great comment, Dana White. I like him a lot. I respect Dana White. What's up, Dana? Shout out to Dana White. So that being said, that being said, you got to look at it now because they started out with Strikeforce, right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
Then I think it was Elite XC or something. They changed a few different names. They had Kimbo Slice off for a while.
They rebranded. Yeah. They rebranded it. Is the term. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Kimbo Slice. R.I.P. He died.
Yeah, man. That was my boy, man, from Miami.
The big loss to Combat Sports.
Yeah. He was quite a character.
Bro, I remember first time I ever saw Kimbo Slice. I remember going down to Jamaica Avenue, Coliseum block. Shout out to everybody from Queens and knows what I'm talking about. The African dudes used to sell like the DVDs in the store and stuff, and you used to just ravage guy on the cover with the beard and the teeth, just like ready to just destroy you. I'm like, yeah, let me get that one right there. You didn't even know what was on it. You were just like that, and it was just like the parental advisory thing was.
That's how you knew it was good. That's how you knew it was good,
bro. I took it home, popped it in the computer, DVD, whatever it was at the time. Fuck it. Phenomenal fighter. Street Fighter, come on.
Yeah.
He had some of the best fists we've ever seen. The problem was he crossed over to MMA. That was his mistake. He should have went straight to boxing. He started boxing too late in his combat sports career. He went like 4-0, I think, before his tragic death.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was street fighting. Masvidal comes from that same ilk. They both, there's the YouTube videos of both of them in the same, street fights. And they used to do that in Homestead here in Florida. And they used to get like a ring and just go at it,
Yeah, I know. They became pretty popular on YouTube. They're actually on like those Facebook group chats and stuff like that. You can see those pages when you scroll. They're all like the old backyard street fights, Kimbo Slice and Masvidal. Speaking about the crossovers, I know we had discussed the crossover of Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, but a lot of people forget that Kimbo Slice versus Cesc Petrocelli back in, I think it was 2014. Lasted only 14 seconds, but it was a major crossover. Like first time a street fighter to an MMA, to bring us full circle. We got boxing crossover to MMA right now. What's your opinion on it?
Well, I going back to your first point, I remember when I first realized that the UFC was going to be big. It was when Brock Lesnar fought, and I remember like people like running towards the TV to watch, Brock. Because it was just such a spectacle to see somebody crossing over. Like and I knew that UFC at that point was going to be, kind of for the masses. You know what I mean? But yeah, going back to the point of
a lot of people. Brock Lesnar was like a D1 athlete, whatever. He was
he was. Yeah, no, of course.
Like college or whatever. He was a beast.
Yeah, he was.
He had that background before just coming into MMA. He wasn't one of the big brawly guys that just spent all his time in the gym.
But he was huge though too. I mean, he wasn't.
He had technique and style. He did. I mean, but when you're in the UFC, and it's funny because I just came across coincidentally, I came across a short of Frank Mir talking about this recently, saying, he was the baddest dude wherever he went. He never really got beat up or never really know what it was like until he went to the UFC. And when he got there, it was just guys on a different level. Like, oh shit, like these are the top tier guys now, So, it definitely brings out a different animal with a guy. Can you compete on those levels?
Well, you remember the Gracies, right? They used to dominate that, and they're gone. They're gone. Like you'll see them every once in a while. You'll see a Gracie pop in here or there, but they used to dominate the sport, and now it's changed in such a way that they're not relevant. They're not as relevant as they were when they first started. Remember, they would go undefeated. Nobody would beat them.
They gave away the secret sauce. At the end of the day, I think that's what their goal was. I don't really know, but I think that they saw themselves more as teachers, delivering the sport, bringing the sport from Japan to Brazil, and then Brazil eventually to the United States in the way that they did. Everybody knows who the Gracie family is, So if combat sports. So
I think it was also ego. They wanted to prove that their style or the way that they were, doing the martial arts was the best in the world, But like you said, they gave up the sauce, and now everybody incorporates striking and grappling to in a way that the Gracies are not capable. They're not. None of them were strikers. You know, like there was just the ground was all ground game for them. If you remember.
Perfect example of that in MMA was Damian Maia. I don't know if you remember him. He was one of the best grapplers, best jiu-jitsu guys throughout like the early mid 2000s. I mean, I don't know if he's still competing or not, but he was one of the best in the world. And you know, he just didn't have the striking. But I mean, he would just wait on the ground for you, and if he got you on the ground, he would submit anyone. He was a force to be reckoned with on the ground. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not really sure what the Gracies are doing now. I know that they were
they have schools.
Whatever, they had the schools and stuff like that.
Schools all over.
The most recent pop-up in media actually was one of the grandsons or nephews or something like that was on Shark Tank. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, he was on Shark Tank.
So you don't think Dana White's going to get into the boxing game?
I think it'd be interesting to see if Dana White does decide to throw his hand in the proverbial boxing ring. But at the end of the day, I think his hands are pretty tied up with everything he's got going on. He's got the UFC. He's got that stupid slap competition stuff now. I really don't like it. We touched on it a little bit, whatever. To me, it's the stupidest thing ever. What I do like is, and I don't feel like it got enough attention. I don't know if it was done right. It was released on A&E, was the arm wrestling guys. What was the name of that show? Remember?
I don't remember.
Arm wrestling competition. A bunch of guys out the country. It was really reminiscent of Over the Top or whatever. You know?
I think you're just reminiscent of Over the Top.
Yeah, of course. I love it. Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think that would have been better than this slap competition. But supposedly that's picking up a lot of steam. It's the new thing.
It is. I think people like the react. It's good for like social media. That reaction of getting slapped and the person like, you know, falling or passing. That's people like watching that for some reason. I think everyone can relate to being slapped, you know, especially if you have a girlfriend or a wife. You can definitely relate to being slapped at least a couple times.
Yeah, I hear on that. I just can't get behind it, whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't entertain me or whatever. Like the guy's got a bit an orbital. He's still getting smacked around. I'm like, this is just not even fun to watch. But,
you know what? Did you ever hear what Strickland said about that YouTube, not the YouTube guy, that Instagram guy that's always like he's like the alpha guy. I forgot his name. He's like got
some really, really funny YouTube clips now, especially now that they're coming out.
And I think that's ultimately that's good for the UFC because they were missing stars. Like after McGregor, it kind of dipped for them. They didn't have any more like big stars, and you need a name to carry you. And I think like Covington, Strickland, those guys have enough charisma to sell fights, because you got to know who they are. If you don't know who they are, most people are gonna watch. That's why the Brock Lesnar thing was so important. And like you said, Kimbo Slice, those are guys that have cachet, right? Even if they win or lose, Masvidal has a little bit of that. People like to watch him lose, but still, you want to have a guy. You want to have like your stable of guys that are going to attract the main eyeballs to your fight. Like Tyson Fury does that very well. He sells every fight. You just want to watch him, whether you like him, you don't like him, you like his style. You're gonna watch him because you don't know what he's gonna do. He's compelling. He's kind of crazy a little bit, you know. So
he's a hell of a showman for sure, no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, you're right. As far as like UFC star power, I think that listen, they do have a solid fan base, and they always put on great shows, great fights. There's always excellent highlights. I think the blessing and the curse at the same time for the UFC is that they go through champions so fast because there's just so much up and coming talent. Like
there's also parity.
You and I are fans, and even me, I'm like, who's this guy? Like, who the hell is this guy? Like, this guy just comes out of nowhere. This guy, and like for the casual fan, or even just the guy who's just like, I just want to see a fight. The belts change hands so fast. And I feel like in boxing, it was a little bit slower. You'd have a champ or whatever. He'd fight 4 times a year, if anything. Canelo, I think, fights about 3 times. And, you know, they defend. They get their name. They know who they are. These guys, they might get like Israel Adesanya, perfect example.
Yeah.
Couple title defenses, completely obliterated by Sean Strickland. That's all anybody's talking about now. Strickland.
But I think that's by design as well. If you have a guy that's going to generate so much money, you're gonna have to pay it. So I think it's the parity's kind of by design. You want the guys to be interchangeable because for the UFC, you're selling the UFC, where in boxing, you're selling the fighter. So I think it's business model wise, it's a different kind of promotional thing, right? The UFC, the UFC, that's the main brand. In boxing, there is no, there's Golden Boy, there's Al Heyman, there's like Showtime or whatever. Like you're not selling the promotional part of it. You're selling, you're selling Canelo, you're selling, Ugas, you're selling these guys as the actual talent. Or in the UFC, they don't promote it that way. Just a different model. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And that being considered or whatever, that's one of the reasons why I don't think that Dana White will get into the boxing game, just because of the fact of that what you've just said. Boxers make significantly more money than UFC fighters, and the fights are more based off of them than the company, as opposed to what the UFC.
Well, that's why they cross over and fight the YouTube kid, to make money. Like,
well, I mean, Jake Paul is a star. White, he always calls him out and says, like, you don't pay enough. Your fighters don't.
And he's right, though. He's right. I mean,
he is. Because if you just see the recent quote by Francis Ngannou, he said the one fight in PFL, he's going to make more money in that fight than he did his whole life or his whole career.
Right. All the guys that fought Jake Paul.
And we said most of these guys today are businessmen. It just makes sense. It does.
Well, everyone who's fought Jake Paul, that's their biggest payday. Right. And that's kind of sad. You know what I mean? You have to go fight a YouTuber to make the most money, and that doesn't make much sense to me. So and they've had to do it. They don't have a choice. So like Jake Paul gets to like expose these guys or kind of do whatever he does, and these guys are not even fighters; they're UFC guys.
Right.
Not that Jake Paul's going into the ring with them in the UFC, in the octagon or whatever.
Jake Paul's next scheduled fight, I think, is supposed to be against Nate Diaz. I think it's supposed to be MMA.
That's gonna be quick. That'll be quick.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun to see.
That'll be quick. You better like stay, not go up to get something. That's not gonna last very long. You're gonna get him on the floor. That's it. Like rear naked chokehold. It's over. Done. It's done.
One of the greatest submission artists in the history.
Yeah, that'll take 20 minutes.
There's a video of him, like, I think when he's real young, like 16 or 17, fighting with a grown man. Is either him or his brother? Pretty sure it was him. Yeah, they throw down. A lot of respect for them.
Yeah,
to the Diaz brothers for sure. And he was actually in a recent scuffle in New Orleans. I don't know if you saw that video. It looked like
I didn't.
The Paul brothers. He might have thought it was Logan Paul, like another YouTuber or whatever. It was like a little scuffle. He comes up to him, and his instincts just kick in. He puts one arm over the other. You can totally see how he does this. Just plans it, boom, gets him in a chokehold, puts the guy to sleep within like 5 seconds, hits the floor or whatever, and just walks away. Pretty awesome, to be honest with you, Flush.
Well, again, going back to the Gracie point, that fighting style is made for, hand-to-hand, anywhere kind of combat. Sometimes boxers get into trouble because they're used to fighting in the ring. Boxing is just upright, face-to-face. In a street fight, it doesn't work that way. You can get a beer bottle from the side of the head. It's easy if you can get, the guy in front of you to choke you. So that's why I think the UFC, in like a real-world situation, those guys are dangerous. Anybody that fights in the UFC I have a lot of respect for those guys because they are seriously dangerous. I mean, more than I think a boxer.
There's a character in the show Oz. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Oz on HBO.
I love Oz. Is like one of my favorite shows of all time. That's not me. That right show. Okay, all right. So that was an amazing show. Like, out of BC.
Okay. Calvo, Chuck Zito played Calvo character. The guy who died from Breaking Bad played Napa. Margolis. What was
Margolis? Yeah, he played. He didn't talk in Breaking Bad because he doesn't speak Spanish. He's Italian,
Yeah, I knew him as my boss Antonio Napa. That's funny. So going back to it, if you remember, Dave Brass, the CO turned basketball player, that guy's Achilles cut.
I don't remember that. I haven't seen a show in a long time. I'll keep going.
So I'm a show wizard or whatever, but he said this one thing. He's talking to Tim McManus, the guy who ran M City.
M City. That's right. You remember that show much more than I do. M City was the Emerald City.
I don't know what business I had watching this show, or whatever, at the time, but I watched it.
The O'Reilly brothers. Remember the O'Reilly brothers? They had a boxing thing there with the brothers fighting.
Yeah, they're on the Allstate commercials now.
That's right. I know, and I see them all the time, and I'm like, dude, that's the O'Reilly brothers. Oh,
I know. Yo, he was a sick bastard there. Right?
He was. I liked his character a lot. It was a good character.
That guy, Dave Brass, who played a CEO, he wound up being crazy or whatever.
he makes this one statement, whatever. That's a great statement when it comes to sports. He said, league minimum. I forget what it was, what number he said. It was probably like 200, 300,000 at the time, whatever, 250,000, whatever. He goes, league minimum for this player is this, that, and a third. But just think about that. Do you know how good you have to be, even to just be a bench warmer in the NBA? You have to be a superb basketball player.
It's the cream of the crop.
In a whole different league.
Yeah.
So I think it ties right back to what you said about these UFC fighters. Like when you are in the UFC and you actually get there, even to be the lowest paid, newest fighter on the roster, you being on that UFC roster certifies you as a badass motherfucker. Straight up. I'm telling you, like,
unless you're Mark,
you need guts to step in the ring or whatever. You know, a lot of guys that step in the ring not supposed to be in the ring. UFC, I'm pretty sure, vets its guys, and you can just tell within the talent. They're not going to put anybody on TV, televised, whatever. Get them in a UFC fight, Contender Series, whatever Dana White was doing, Tough Enough, I forgot what it was called or whatever, the Ultimate Fighter, all that shit. Those guys were seriously fucking talented, and they were badass dudes, you know what I mean? So to actually put them on a show and get them all together and all that stuff, it was pretty impressive. You know, so it just tied, those two things tie together. Like just to be on that roster and get on that show. I mean, it just speaks volumes about who you are, what you do in the sport.
Rita Moreno was really good in Oz too. I don't know if you remember. She was the nun. She was really good at that.
Mr. P.
Yeah.
Peter Marie. Bro, give me the questions, bro. I'm telling you, like, how second reading. No.
Rick Fox was there too. You remember Rick Fox?
Of course. He played.
He was in Oz's family.
Hold on. He played, damn. Hold on.
And so was the guy from CSI, not CSI, from
Chris Keller, Chris Maloney.
Chris Maloney. Yeah. He's a good actor too.
Chris Keller. Jackson Vahue. That's who Rick Fox plays.
Jackson Vahue, that's right. Vahue. Yeah. Then you had that Russian guy, the Russian a mobster that always wore the jumpers.
Yeah, Nikolai Stanislavski.
Wow, look at you! And then you had Adam Beasie's like nemesis was the Muslim guy who had like the crazy eyes.
Yeah, bro.
I love that. That show was. I was like, what? That's one of my. I always try to tell people that show changed TV.
Speaking of Oz,
that show changed.
They had a fucking boxing competition in Oz.
They did. That's what I was trying to tell you. The O'Reilly brothers. They had a boxing competition, and O'Reilly he drugged up the other guys like a thing, and like that's how he got to the final.
Yeah, he was spiking their water bottles. We got some pictures with some really famous boxers at an event we did here in Vegas. And we were actually at the fight, the Plan Benavidez fight. We ran into
Kevin Kelly with Kelly, and we were there with
Kevin Kelly. Flush and Flash. Hopefully we get him on the show coming up.
That'd be great. He's a super nice guy, and he's actually really knowledgeable, really smart,
cool, and humble guy without a doubt. Yeah, Kevin Kelly. Flushing. He's we're from Flushing, bro.
I remember you guys like hit it off pretty well. So
yeah,
all the ex-boxing guys are usually super nice. I mean, it's a shame that they all, especially in the 90s, the promotion wasn't what it is now. If they made $1 million after they pay the promoters, the trainers, they didn't make a lot of money, not like they do now.
Well, it's all about investing at the end of the day or whatever. And I mean, we both know that. I mean, the guys that did good with their money and the guys that didn't. I mean, famous quote from Mike Tyson was like, he'll never get out of debt with what he owed the IRS. And look at him now. I mean, he started up Hot Boxing, the boxing podcast, doing extremely well.
But it took him a long time. It took him a long time to realize, he went, up and down until now he's finally back up. But there was a time where a lot of people didn't think that Tyson was going to ever get out of
hundreds of millions of dollars in debt to the United States government. Coming back from that might take you the rest of your life. Yeah.
Joe Louis turned over all his winnings to the IRS. They were there to cap it. When he finished the fight, got paid, and the IRS took the money right then and there, which is crazy. Because, it isn't like today where you put in a bank account, they take it from your bank. It went physically there to take that money. So he fought basically for free. Yeah. And that's why he had to keep fighting. He had already retired. but he had IRS problems because, again, like you said, bad management, bad investments.
Right.
You put your brother as your promoter, all of a sudden, you look at the bank account, it's zero.
You can name a lot of boxers or whatever that go through the same thing.
Anybody, boxers,
athletes or whatever.
Ricky Williams, he invested his money with some lady, and she robbed him blind. She's in jail now. She robbed him blind. She robbed him and Rodman of their life savings. And she's in jail now.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman is an interesting character. I met Dennis Rodman backstage at a Pearl Jam concert. Yeah,
I love Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was my hero. I'm a big Heat fan.
He was one of my idols, but he was one of my idols or whatever. I liked him growing up, but like the old saying, never meet your hero kind of thing or whatever. We didn't have the most positive interaction or whatever. I'll just put it to you like.
Well, you can imagine being Dennis Rodman.
Argentinian supermodel or whatever that was there. We had a little problem. They don't call me Tony Hansen for nothing or whatever, and I'm kind of charming. So, you put me next to a lady, you tell me to talk to her, I'm going to talk to her, right? Well, you're going to get upset if I'm talking to her.
But you can imagine being Rodman. I mean, it's kind of, everyone tries you, Rodman's got kind of that,
I thought he was cool in the beginning, but
right.
then, and he was definitely on something, let's be honest or whatever, he's got
a
riddles. He talks in rumbles like that. It's like, I know I talk fast. It's kind of hard to understand me sometimes or whatever, especially with my accent, but come on. Like,
let's wrap it up and get our predictions.
I don't really understand. This guy was speaking in gibberish.
Let's get our predictions for the fight because we're coming down to the end. We'll do it real quick. We'll go through Canelo. What do you got in the Canelo fight?
I like Canelo by decision or knockout in the 7th. I think we were saying.
You're calling the round. I'm gonna keep it out here.
Call it down. Yeah, I think we were discussing it yesterday, and I think if Canelo does the right thing and stalks him down, he usually turns it on by the 9th. But if he does the right thing and attacks Charlo's arms, goes to the body. After 2 years of ring rust, I feel like it's really going to weigh Charlo down. And I think by like midway through the fight around the 6th, he might get caught in the 7th. I'd say Canelo, knockout in the 7th. If not, it's going to go the distance with a Canelo decision.
Yeah, I got him winning by a unanimous decision. That's what I think. He's going to just wear him down, like you said, and take over in the later round. He's a lot bigger, stronger. I think he's going to probably do well in the beginning, like a lot of guys do, where it's like he can still be fast and mobile. But as the fight goes on, I think Canelo, he's not a huge starter. He's kind of a slow starter, prodding, but he's going to get to him eventually. Probably after the 5th or 6th, it's going to be all Canelo. That's at least what I think. And then we got the Ugas Barrios fight. Who do you got in that one?
I'm going to go Ugas with decision on that one too. I don't see if Barrios really, this is like his last chance to actually keep his name significant in the division, in my opinion. If he doesn't just breeze right through Ugas, in my opinion, Ugas is like an upper echelon gatekeeper at this point. He's fought some really top leaders in the division. His record is stacked. But for him, I think they floated winner gets title shot to be
something like that. Yeah.
We'll see. But I think Ugas takes this by decision. And maybe he gets his last chance for a run at the belt.
Yeah, Ugas lost to Spence Porter. Porter Figueroa. He beat Pac-Man. Those are like the Pac-Man. He's probably his one, big win. And obviously
definitely the feather in his cap, but it was a later in life than Pacquiao.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't. You're right. It wasn't a Barrera or a Pac-Man when even he fought Floyd. It was a much faded, much older guy. But I think Ugas is probably gonna get win by knockout. I think there's gonna be a late KO there. I think Ugas is just physically more imposing than Barrios. Barrios got knocked out by Gervonta, so I think that it's I think Ugas is probably gonna knock him out or at least stop him at some point, probably in like the 5th or 6th. That's what I kind of thinking at this point. But you never know. It's boxing, man.
Definitely solid predictions. All right, so we'll mark them down or whatever. So we looks like we're both on the same page this week or whatever. We're going Canelo, Ugas. Picks are in. Okay, got to ask your opinion on one more thing, Fernando. Top 5 boxers right now. Your rankings. Doesn't have to technically be in order, but give me a top 5.
I mean, we got Canelo. We got Benavidez. Fury's in there. Tyson Fury's I don't know. I was big on Teofimo Lopez, but he lost. Let's see. I'll just probably go with the Ukrainian guy. What's his name? The other heavyweight champion. Usyk. What about you? What are your top 5 guys?
I mean, in no particular order, my top 5 right now in boxing, pound for pound, I'm gonna go Canelo, Crawford, Bud Crawford.
Bud is for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Gervonta Tank Davis.
There you go.
Fury. And for my 5th, could be a little controversial depending on who you ask, but I'm gonna go with the monster. I know he's new. Yahweh and Yowie, I think his name is pronounced.
Yeah.
But a really great up-and-coming fighter. He's really talented. He's got excellent head movement, excellent footwork, power punches, can hit you with either left or right hands. And I think he's going to be definitely one to watch.
Let's see how it works out. The picks are in. And as always, Fernando, it's a pleasure. We hope to see everybody tuning in again. We'll try to bring you an episode at least once or twice a month. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. As always, I'm your host, Tony Handsome, with my co-host, Fernando, the Boxing Brain Valdez. And those are Fighting Words.